Hello students. Today we are going to study the poem The Trees by Adrian Rich. Let us first learn a little bit about the poet before we move on to the poem. Adrian Rich was born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1929. She was an American essayist and poet. After graduating from Radcliffe University, she moved to New York and began writing poetry. Her famous poetry collections are A Change of World, 1951, Necessities of Life, 1966, Leaflets, 1966, and Diving into the Wreck, 1973. Of Woman Born, Motherhood, Its Experience and Institution, Poetry and Commitment, an Essay, and A Human Eye, Essays on Art and Society are some of her non-fictional works. She campaigned lifelong for civil rights, the rights of women, and her ardent feminism is reflected in her later works. The poem starts with a description of the trees which are moving out into the forest. The forest was empty all these days, and living creatures and natural elements had no place to seek shelter. The ecosystem had been broken. Notice that the trees have asserted their will and are moving out by themselves. The movement words ascribed to the trees in the second stanza, like disengage, strain, stiff, shuffling, moving, give the trees a human persona. They help personify the trees. The poet compares the trees to newly discharged patients who are now leaving the clinic. They are half dazed, hence giving us the idea that they have just healed and are still physically weak. At the beginning of the third stanza, Rich brings her own persona into the poem. Till now, she was an objective observer. Now, she becomes a participant, though her participation is somewhat distant. She says she is writing long letters, and she barely notices when the forest of trees departs from her house. We do not know what she is writing in her letters or to whom they are addressed. Rich now delves into a romantic description of the night outside, the moonlight, and the fragrance of the trees which have recently departed. Her sensuous images in the third stanza soon turn more sinister. Her mind is active, the voice of her consciousness is still speaking, but her intuition tells her that it will soon be silent. For the first time, she directly addresses her readers, urging them to listen to the sound of the glass breaking. Literally, it is the glass wall of the herbarium which breaks, and it is the veranda floor inside the house from which the trees uproot themselves. A deeper understanding of the poem tells us that the trees are embodiments of human beings who have been oppressed for a long time. They have finally decided to break free from the shackles holding them back. Their movement out into the open suggests a woman finding her voice and identity. Each tree is like a woman who leaves the confines of her house and her domestic life to find her way and place in the world. We know that Adrian Rich strongly spoke for women's rights and campaigned for women's empowerment all her life. The trees leave the comfort and shelter of the nursing home to form a forest outside the house. This suggests the formation of a collective identity. Maybe the people are at the brink of a new movement. Considering Rich's personal and political life, we can say that the poem hints at the feminist movement. This poem appeared in the collection Necessities of Life, published in 1966. The second wave of feminism was in full swing around that time. The poem ends with the image of the trees being embraced by the natural surroundings outside. The moon breaks like a mirror into many pieces, and it reflects the tallest oak tree in the forest. The mirror is a symbol of womanhood and femininity. The former self of the new woman exists only in fragments. The image of the newly awakened woman is perhaps best conveyed by the oak tree. Like the oak tree, that image is firm and solid and durable. With that, we come to the end of the poem. I'm sure Rich's images have hit you hard. I'll leave you to think over the poem and find out more about Adrian Rich's poetry. See you soon in our recap and Q&A videos.